Hey everybody, we're going to do an isometric drawing today. So isometric perspective is something that you might have actually done before if you've ever drawn a cube in this way, okay? Um, so the simplest way to explain that is start with a square and then draw another square that overlaps it slightly, okay? And then just connect the corners, okay? If everything works out on this, all of these lines should be parallel to each other. So these lines going backwards are parallel, these two vertical lines are parallel, and these horizontal lines are parallel, okay? Now there's two ways to view this cube, right? If you can kind of swap your viewpoint and think about this as the front here or this as the front. And if you kind of blink a little bit and look at it, you can kind of switch your viewpoint. If that's confusing to you, that's all right. Just keep looking at it. Maybe you'll figure it out. So what we actually want to do though is make this look like a solid cube. So some of these lines we don't actually want to show up, okay? We actually just want three parts for isometric. We want the front, we want the top, and we want the side. Now, if you Google isometric perspective graph paper, you can actually get a certain type of graph paper that has lines on it where you can draw, you can sort of connect the dots and draw an isometric drawing. But we're just going to kind of do it by hand because I want you to kind of wrap your brain around this idea a little bit and just sketch. I'm going to use a fairly small piece of paper, okay? Because I want you to make a fairly small drawing, okay? You're probably going to mess this up a few times, and that's okay. Just try it out a few times and see what you can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and just draw a cube in isometric perspective. So I'm going to draw a square here, and then I'm going to bring back two lines that are pretty much parallel to each other. If you're not using the graph paper, they may not be perfect, but they're going to be close enough for what we're doing here. So two lines back, and then a vertical and a horizontal, and you have your little cube, okay? And then just think about it. One of the best ways to explain this now is just think about it like little Minecraft blocks, right? You're going to place these blocks next to each other, and you can continue building your structure by placing blocks next to each other. And just like in Minecraft, if you want them to float on their own, okay, you can do that. If you want to make it taller, okay, you can also draw a taller rectangular shape, and then you can draw the lines this way, okay? And you could think about that as being multiple blocks if you really wanted to, okay? But you can extend the isometric perspective and create some interesting shapes in that way as well, okay? You can make shapes look like they're in front of each other or behind each other, okay? You can also make things look like they go inside of each other, and then we can shade that in, and we can actually have a little hole there in that space. And there's a couple of cool things that you can do to make this sort of work as a illusion of space. So let's add a few more blocks to our isometric perspective, and then we're going to do something kind of interesting here, okay? So one thing you can do is that you can make it look like there's like a doorway into the space, okay? So you can make that little doorway in there, and there's two ways to do that, okay? You can make a closed door, and just put the doorknob on it like that, okay? Or you can draw the line going back into it and make it look like there's no door on there and it's just a space, okay? Or a hole into the actual room, okay? So there's also a couple of other things you can do to play with this idea of isometric perspective, okay? So one thing you can also do is make it look like there's ladders that you can climb up to, okay? So make this ladder kind of come down at an angle a little bit, and then draw the rungs of the ladder, and you can make it look like you could climb up onto that space there, okay? You could even make like a vine or something, right, going up there, and we could put little leaves on there, okay? And it could be kind of like a vine that you could climb up, okay? If you wanted to, you could put little windows on this isometric and make it look kind of like a building, okay? So there's kind of a lot of fun things you can do with this. And then we could do some shading too if we wanted to. So I'm going to make another little ladder that goes up here. There would be a way to cut some steps into this if you really wanted to get into it. You can look up some other examples, but this is a good way to sort of get started with the idea of isometric perspective. So we can do that shape there, and then we could even put a ladder across like that and make it look sort of like a bridge, right? So you've got the idea there. So everything follows this isometric perspective. If you wanted to, you could kind of make a little river flow out from there. But with isometric perspective, everything stays the same. It doesn't actually get farther away, or the lines don't come together like they do in two-point perspective. So there's some interesting things there about isometric. Everything stays parallel. So let's go ahead and make this part all the same. And we'll make these kind of look like blocks here. Maybe we'll put another door in here. So there's some just playing around that you can do with isometric perspective, and it's kind of a cool technique to draw. So see if you can come up with a few little details. Now, if you want to start to add some shading to it, then really think about having 3 different types of shadow. So wherever your light's coming from, the top's probably your lightest area, so you may want to keep that white or very light, okay? And then maybe this side over here will be the side that you shade darker, okay? And then maybe the front you'll shade kind of medium, okay? And so you can actually add some shading to this, or you could choose a color and do 3 different shades and tints of the color. So lightest on the top, medium, and darkest. And then just stick with those throughout your drawing. So if it's here on the side, we'll make this our medium. And then inside of there, it should be pretty dark, I'm guessing, because it's actually inside. So we'll shade that a little darker to make it look like a little cave or hole in there. And then this side will be a little bit darker too, okay? And so we can start adding some shadow to the whole thing, or even adding some color to it. And this will be darker inside of here because we're trying to make it look like it's a little hole in there too. So give it a shot. Try out this isometric perspective thing and just experiment a little bit with this way of drawing, okay, and see what you come up with, okay. There's definitely a lot that you can do with it, but you kind of stuck with your cubes for the most part. It's possible to cut them into pyramids and ramps and other shapes like that, but maybe that's another video to talk about that. So, alright, give this isometric drawing a try and see what you come up with. Talk to you later.